How's it going, internets? I hope you're having a lovely day. It's that time again. It's time to get into some animation. It's time to get that creativity all ready to go. Time to get that imagination all running wild, and it's time to get inspired. And today's inspiration comes from Joe Kubert. And if you're not familiar with his work, check right over here. He was an amazing illustrator and comic book artist who worked a lot with DC Comics. Just give you a couple of his beautiful illustration work over here. Again, great lines. He's one of those amazing people who was lucky enough to know where he wanted to go and what his special gift was very early on. I think he was working in some form in the industry at around age 12 or so. So he was pretty much one of those, I think they refer to them as lifers. Or it's just their whole life is based around there. And I think that's an incredibly lucky thing to know where your passion is and what your end result is going to be at that young age. But whatever age you are, it's never too late to find what your passion is and your drive. So keep pursuing those things. But definitely, it's beautiful to see someone's who has such a great, amazing gift and talent from such a young age and see them pursue it throughout their whole life. I think that's a really lucky and unique thing to find. I remember reading the Enemy Ace comics, and they're just spot on, gorgeous stuff. This is another great Batman. I love the use of color here, where everyone else is like this green hueish color, and then you've got the bright colors on the Batman. And this one, I think I actually have this comic somewhere, but it's got this great whipping from the way the head moves, and great line of action throughout there. Strong posing, and a great compositional layout where you have the silhouette of the plane going through his legs, and the other one, and it just leads the eye throughout the imagery pretty smoothly throughout. I like his choice of layout there. And again, some great work. Anytime I can find really kind of sketchy stuff is where I'm personally drawn to. I love a little bit more rough illustration work, where it's got that extra sense of life to it before it's been really tied down. And if you're looking for a good discussion on that, Jersey Droz, was it Thunder Punch Daily a couple days ago, he talked about the going from sketch to finished product and losing a little bit of life in there. And you can definitely see, there's probably some line work that you could really tighten up in here. But it's got, I think, a little more life, leaving it in a little bit of a sketchy with some rough in there that brings that extra sense of movement quality to it. If you look in a lot of animation, you'll see they have like a smear frame every once in a while where there's some quick action, and I feel like leaving a little bit of rough, unpolished sketching in your drawing adds a little bit of that sense of movement or sense of life to it. But I wanted to share a quote with you guys that I found from him, and he said, I kept saying to myself, if these guys can do this kind of work, then maybe I'll be able to be that good or better. It never intimidated me, just the opposite. It gave me more incentive to go ahead and do my own stuff. But an art form or a lower form of art, I never thought of that. I just love to do it. And he was kind of referring in that last part to comic books at the time were not necessarily considered with a very high regard in the art world. But I liked the beginning part because I feel like that's an important thing for creative people to do, or to have that sense of feeling about not getting jealous or not getting frustrated or not getting angry, but look at other people's work that you aspire to be like, and say to yourself, if these guys can do this kind of work, then maybe I'll be able to be that good or better. And I think the part of looking at it and saying maybe I'll be able to be that good is an important part, because you have to keep yourself positive, have to think in advance of that you might be able to, you might not, but if you push yourself, maybe you'll be able to be that good. And then not to even just cut it off there, but to add that last part of or better, and to leave yourself open to, if you push hard enough, if you try hard enough, if you continue pursuing these things, that maybe you'll be that good, or maybe you can be even better. And to use beautiful illustration work or beautiful songs or whatever medium you guys find yourself attracted to, and never to be discouraged or frustrated, but use great pieces of work or art or sculpture or whatever it is. Use it as an inspiration and something to aspire to be like, and to not even just cut it off at being like it, but being better than it. So that being said, let's go ahead and get into some animation. This is the Mr. Big Shot rig. It's a free rig you can grab over at Rocket Sky, and I will throw a link in the description below, along with some more of Joe Kubert, or I wonder if it's Kubert. Let me know in the comments below. Work as well. And if you're not familiar with what we're doing for the rest of this video, is we give ourselves usually around 48 frames, 2 seconds of animation. I go off and I find a rig that I've never used before. That's a free resource for you guys to play around with as well. And we kind of go from there. A little bit of over the shoulder, hang out with me while I animate. A little bit of, come on, here you go. A little bit of just kind of instruction or guidance or talking through the process. I try to not do cuts or edits on this so you guys can see the whole process. You can see when things are successful. You can see when things are unsuccessful, because I think that's an important thing to have, especially for people who are just learning or just figuring this out. There's a lot of videos that are quick cuts, and it's the kind of highlight reel of an animation session. And this is the raw. This is just everything. You see the frustration, you see distractions that can happen, any of that kind of thing, and trying to keep focused, trying to stay positive, and trying to put something out each and every day. And if you do end up using this rig, or if you guys end up creating something, whether I was inspired to do something because of something we talked about, or because you disagreed, or any of that stuff, share it down below so I can give you some encouragement or feedback or anything that you guys are looking for as well. So that being said, let's go ahead and get in here. If you've been following along for the last pretty much 2 weeks or so, we've been doing Jumpvember, which is a jump animation every day for the month of November, and today is going to continue in that vein as well. What I was thinking for this one is we would do a grip from one pole to trying to grab onto the other one. So let's see if we can do that. And I think I want to kind of lay it out so I can keep the first pose close to where they set up by default, just so that I'm not doing too much counter animation to begin with from that first pose. So let's go ahead. And we're going to be using IK hands and feet so we can make sure that we get them stuck to this pole. And I think this is the last free rig from Rocket Sky that's available right now, so we'll probably go back to using more rigs from Creative Crash for the next couple of days. But it's been fun messing around with their rigs for the last few days. Definitely a couple of them that I would do some different tweaks with, I think, rigging wise, but overall really pretty great resources that I don't think many people have been using. I don't see hardly anyone use these rigs in their reels or on their reels, so might be something to give yourself a little bit of a variation from most people's reels. If you end up using these rigs, let me know, and if you do end up, you can always send a message and tell them where you saw them too. So I always am excited to give new things exposure. So if you guys know where any other rigs are that you really like that you haven't seen featured on this channel, or if you guys are a rigger yourself, definitely shoot me a copy of your rig, and I'd be happy to do a video using it as well. So again, we're just going to try and create kind of an interesting storytelling pose to start off our shot with, and we're going to go from one to the other. And let's go rotate X, and should we rotate, I guess, Y here. I was thinking it would be Z, but what do I know? Okay. And let's loosen chest a little bit here. Did I only have one chest controller in this one? The other one seemed to have two, so that's okay though. But we're gonna need to pull it out so it's not completely in here. Let's go ahead and turn the head here. Oh, that's the jaw. It's the head controller. Okay. Rotate it over to the side. This in a little more. Let's do a little bit on the shoulder. So you can get a little bit more curvature in there. Those arms aren't so stiff. One thing that I might approach differently if I was doing this rig myself, which I always try to, comment on the usability of rigs as well, is the shoulders and the chest feel a little bit stiff. I saw this in the Mr. Stills rig as well. So that's one thing that I might approach a little differently if I was rigging these myself. That being said, I am not a rigger, so the things that I would actually rig would probably be just awful. So, but I've had some feedback from people that they like to know what works or what doesn't work. Kind of watch the process as well from a rigging standpoint instead of just an animation standpoint. And let's see here. Just trying to create a more interesting hand pose there. Tip out. And let's maybe push those together a little bit. And let's get a little better hand pose here. They always get excited whenever I'm recording. So let's see here. I'll do a little bit more there. Bring this one out. And tip out a little bit more, or the pinky out a little bit more. Let's bring the thumb down a little bit. And let's adjust the spreads here. So let's grab the ring spread and we'll bring that down there a little bit. And the pinky, I'll bring it up a little bit. Okay, I think we need to still pull it in a little more. Now the thing that's going to take a little bit of time with this shot is going to be making sure we get the peel offs working right and the peel back on to the other pull here. I think the feet want to be up a little. Make sure I'm just grabbing the foot there and not the pull there. Maybe we'll do a little bit down there, a little bit up there, just to add a little more variety as well. Okay, I think that's a okay pose to start off with. Doesn't feel too stiff or rigid. Maybe we could do a little bit of rotate Z here, and a little bit of rotate Z there to get a little bit of that sense of kind of squash and stretch from one side of the chest to the other. Maybe a little bit more. Okay, so let's start off there. Let's go ahead and save our file. We are using Autodesk Maya 2014. Turn our grid off here. And don't forget to always save multiple versions and to save often. So let's go ahead and grab everything here. Now they seem to have some other keys in here. Ooh. Let's make sure we go here and where are we at? Let's go set a key there. And let's put our graph editor open here. Because remember when this shot was first open, it had it set to like 200 and something frames. So I'm just gonna make everything right here. And you can see the arms keep snapping back to FK, so we want to keep them in IK because that's what it's default at. Okay. So we got our first key locked in there. And then let's just to give us a default kind of a pose, let's grab everything here. And we'll just push it over to the other side. And again, we'll have to vary it a little bit, but it'll give us a good starting point to have an idea for where we want to go there. And obviously we'll need the elbows and the knees to move over with us. Oh, those are the IK handles, okay. Knees are ongoing. Okay. And again, gonna set that there. Bring that up, back, rotate it out, just to get some more variation here. Bring the elbow down. And I think there's probably too much rotate on the head. Maybe we'll have to make them look back. Kind of where it went. Okay, and let's take everything here and move it to like frame 9. So I want to hold everything. And then do a little bit down there. And let's keep the feet planted till about 14. And this arm, we're going to need to pull it back. Rotate it out. Let's go down here. And the shoulder. It's at least zeroed out. There we go. And again, we're just kind of roughing this out right now. It's nothing we're setting in stone too much. Drag that hand a little bit more. And then let's take everything. Adjust a couple of things here. Let's make sure we grab everything and really lock it in there. And then let's approach tightening down or posing first, or our timing? I think let's do our timing. So let's go to save our file here. Let's grab everything, and we're just gonna kind of lock in a couple of our keys here, just to make sure we hit them just for a while we readjust our timing. So obviously the jump's too slow, so let's cut 2 frames out of the beginning and 4 frames out of the end. Let's look at it now. Okay, it's better, but it's not quite there. So let's do 2 more frames out of the end. Let's see. And maybe 1. Let's get 1 more frame out of each side. It's starting to come together a little better now. Now, obviously, we need to loosen everything up and get some more better paths of action and movement here, but I think the timing works all right. Obviously, we need to sell the weight of it a little bit more, but the timing, I think, feels pretty close. So let's go ahead and save our file now that we readjusted that, and let's focus on getting the hips locked in here. Let's still bring it down a little more here. Bring it down. Bring it down even more. And then back up. Down. Let's look at it now. Okay, a little bit of grit in there, so let's clean that up. And this is kind of that little bit of grit there. So let's go up a little bit, then overshoot, then down, bring that, make it go a little faster. There. Back up a little bit. Okay, should be something close to that. Let's look at it now. Feels like there's a little more weight now to it. And I think this first one, where it goes down like that, probably needs to be a little bit less. A little bit less. That's probably close to what we're looking at. There we go. And then maybe another frame or so to get back up to where it was. Feels like it's maybe a little too fast. Remember, we're just kind of looking at the hips right now. We're not really worried about too much else. So let's see. Yeah, let's look at the translate Z. Let's actually go a little, actually translate X for this one. Let's go over the side a little bit. So we go over. And let's not go so much just yet. So let's see. Over. And this should probably be a little bit closer. Maybe give me another couple of frames to get there. So let's see. That feels a little better. Maybe not so far over there. So let's peel that back a little bit. Let's see. And let's have the hips actually swing over here to overshoot that a little bit more. Go about 2 frames later though. To do a little bit of a circle and then end back. Let's look at how that works. That feels a little better. Probably a little too much. I can probably tone that down a little more. It's pretty close to what I want. Let's look at the translate C here. I think we'll just take this hand. Bring it there. Bring that elbow down. And delete that. I'm just getting some kind of poppiness in there. I like it where it is here. Actually, let's approach the feet first. Okay. So I like the feet. Stay in there. See if we can keep that foot planted an extra frame. Might be too much. Let's see. You gotta swing it out a little more here. Bring that up, bring that knee up. And then let's bring this foot 24. Let's see. I want to do a little bit of a slip though. Let's see. Maybe a couple more frames there. Rotate down so it is kind of a slip. Set that, delete that. Too much rotate X there. Just want a little bit here. Let's look at it now. Still feels like it's a little too fast. Just let it kind of ease in a little more. There we go. Let's do a little more translate Y on that and a little less rotate X. Let's see. Let's get the translate Y. really slamming into that pose. Yeah, it works. Really kicking in there. Now let's look at the other foot. We might change it if we don't like it, but I think it works for now. I'll probably even keep this one on a little bit longer. I'm gonna do some, let's see, ball lift here. Do some rotate X. Drag it off there. Let's set that. This one we gotta be down. Rotate out. So we gotta swing it around the pole, so it's gotta go dip down, go over, and like hook it. I might hit there. Let's maybe delete that one. Let's look at it now. It's pretty close, but it feels like it just goes straight through without any swing out. So let's look at the translate Z here. Let's keep that. Let's favor it being out a little more. And probably down a little more here as well. So we get that nice little bit of arc. Let's see. Maybe we'll overshoot it a little bit. Maybe a little less and a little sooner here, because I want those feet to really plant, but don't want them to just smack in there. Let's look at our spacing. 2, 3. It feels a little better. Just kind of slowing down a little bit in there. Okay. Let's look at the arms and the hands now, see if we can't do a little bit of a better job there. So let's this pose is fine, but I want to hold this for probably a little bit longer. Let's hold it at 10 and allow it to move at 11. And let's really kind of wrap it here, so it still feels like it's peeling off there. And dragging a little bit from where it was before. Still want it to feel like it's dragging a little bit more. This needs to hit about 2 frames sooner, I think. So let's take away out 39 and put that at 24. So let's see. Let's do it up, back. Swing it out. And slam in there. Obviously, we need to clean up some of those rotates, but I think that's starting to feel pretty good. Really need the shoulder to give us a little bit more here. I think we might need to go a little bit closer here, just so we don't get that poppiness in the elbow, if we can avoid it. Let's see. Okay, let's start cleaning this up then. So let's look at the translate Y here. Let's go translate C or translate X here. Let's go delete that. Clean that up a little bit more. Let's go back to where we were. Like that. Let's just delete this. Let's move this in and up a little bit more. Up and over a little bit. That feels a little better for path of action. Granted, we got to get the rotates a little bit cleaner. Okay, let's go to translate Z here. And rotate X. Delete that one. Let's go to rotate Y. smoother. Okay, and let's gotta rotate X. Again, that's okay. Rotate Y. Rotate Z. Okay, that should be pretty good. And then let's set this. Set it there and let it kind of dip down a little bit. And then resettle so it slips. Set that. Go out, over, and then back. Let's see. I think it's just too much. Probably translate. What is that? X. Just do a little reset there. Let's see it now. There we go. Just minimize it a little more. Probably give us an extra frame with that drag down. Maybe push it forward one frame. Let's see. too much movement between. Let's make sure that we get my shoulder in there. And I can do a little bit of drag still. Still probably more drag there. Let's go back to about 13. Let's see. Let's get a better rotate here. Again, I'm sure I'll have to do a lot of cleanup here. Let's get that hand out and open by here. Okay, well, let's start doing some cleanup now because I feel like it's not right just yet. Let's go delete that. I like where it is there. I think we could probably do something more like this here. Let's go ahead and go highest up point here. Let's start flicking that wrist out there. Let's try and get a better arc here. 1, 2. Should be down further. Bring that shoulder down. Down further. still going.
Yeah. Oh.
2, 3, 4. Let's see. That feels a little better. I feel like we should probably be over a little bit more by this time. One, two, three, 4, 5. Let's see. Yeah, let's take that elbow. We don't need to keep it moving so much. Now let's clean this guy up. So let's look at the translate Y's here. Here, translate X. Translate Z. Ooh, that's no good. Let's try something like that. It feels better. colors here. I think we're just going to focus on the spread mainly. corners a little bit. So that, so this one. Let's see. Feels a little better. I get that extra frame in there. Drag on the fingers. This one, let's go ahead and do a little bit more. Just so I get that one more frame that we can see those fingers. Take everything here and delay it a frame there. Let's drag the fingers with the spread here a little bit. Let's see. Here we go. Get a little bit of path of action on all that stuff. A little bit of recoil on the body. Let's look at the feet again. I do feel like we could probably overshoot a little bit on the rotate of this foot here. Since I get should we rotate X, we could probably go a little bit up. And bring that back down. Let's see now. Don't want it to bounce, we just want it to ease back into that last position. Let's go about 2 frames sooner. There we go. Alright, I think that'll do it for today. Definitely we could spend another hour or so polishing that up, but I'm sure we've hit our hour for the day to share together. So let's look back at where we started. We're looking at the lovely comic book illustration work of Joe Kubert, and he said, I kept saying to myself, if these guys can do this kind of work, then maybe I'll be able to be that good or better. It never intimidated me, just the opposite. It gave me more incentive to go ahead and do my own stuff. But an art form or a lower art form, I never thought of that. I just love to do it. I think there's so much good stuff in this quote. Love to do the things that you're passionate about. If you don't know what it is that you love to do, find it. Go experiment. Go try a bunch of stuff until you find the thing that sticks with you. That's just the thing that you have to do every day, or else you just feel off about it. And never get frustrated by people who are way better than you. And there's a reverse too, you know, people who are behind you, they might be the amazing person tomorrow. So just try and be involved in the communities that you can, give back, and stay positive and keep going each and every day. And, you know, keep looking forward to that day that maybe you'll be that good or better. Okay, think that'll do it for today. If you're watching this, you guys are the creative future. I love you lots. I believe in you. You can do it. Keep it up. And with that being said, we'll see you for some more animation tomorrow.